So I seen that, and that one, and that one.
I saw that one at the very corner.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, right here.
They've also eaten my kale. They didn't find that over there, or they just ate a little snack
A little of it.
over there. It's a beautiful evening in the southern mountains of Appalachia. Matt and I have come outside to do a little bit of work. We're going to work on some of the beds, cleaning them up. And we also come outside to see the deer damage. So if you watch my videos, just in the last few days I've published my latest fall garden tour. Well, and in it, me and Corey wondered if the cabbage and the carrots in the front of the house, if that was deer damage. Well, there's no question now, because now they've found my cabbages, although look kind of pitiful, but still was the best cabbages in the back. As you can see, they've eaten them. So, and there's deer tracks. I thought that's what it was, but I had to get Matt to actually prove that I was right. I had to get his opinion. So our bedroom is right there. He said it's funny, they're out here eating while we're in there sleeping. So, So one of the reasons we're working in the evening instead of the weekend like we usually do is because Matt's weekends have been took up by deer hunting. This is deer season. So it's kind of comical in one way that they're now in his yard while he's been hunting them in other places. I don't guess you think that's comical though. Yeah, Matt said that's not a bit funny. But we will have to figure out what to do about that problem. But for now, he's working on this big bed. This is where we had our Cherokee purple, and then also in this front part was our Malabar spinach. So we're going to work on pulling it down, putting it in the compost, and seeing if we can get this part cleaned up. So we had to take all the clips off first. Now Matt's starting to pull them out. But on this end, you can see this dead flower here. This was this lovely yellow zinnia. I planted it last year, actually, not this summer, but the summer before, on purpose right here. And actually, I planted it on purpose behind me in a grow bag. And it's really big yellow zinnias, beautiful. And then because it was so close, it kind of, this time of the year, as this one's kind of fallen over, that one did too, and it seeded itself right here, and this one volunteer. But it was so pretty that I definitely want to save the seeds from it. So before we pull this one out, I'm looking at the seeds, and you can see once you open them up, those are all little zinnia seeds in there. So there'll be lots of them. I won't plant, I mean, even one of these would probably be more than I could actually plant. I'm going to throw some down. Some's probably already been thrown down. That's my favorite way of planting flowers, is just to sprinkle them this time of the year and then leave them, and hopefully next year some of them will come up. But I am going to get some of them off in case Granny wants some or Corey wants some. Another thing I'm thinking about for next year, I'm always already thinking of the next year, even though we've got lots of cold weather between now and when I'll be planting zinnias. But there's a beautiful house that I've noticed my whole life over in Blairsville on the way to the hospital. If you're local, you probably know it's right on the side of the road. And they have a beautiful garden, but they have a huge row of zinnias every year, one whole row of zinnias in their garden, and it's just beautiful. So I wanted to try that this year with ours in the front, but by the time I planted them, I got them planted a little bit too late, and then I think I didn't tell Matt where some of them was at, and he accidentally tilled some of them up. So next year, that's something I really want to do if I can, depending on room. We're always lacking for room, but to put a whole long row. Now by the end of the summer this year, I did have and there was even some of these yellow ones, which they're really too tall. I shouldn't plant them down there. I should plant a smaller variety. But I did have one here and one there and one here and one there. But I would love to have a full row like the beautiful house over in Blairsville. So the bed we're cleaning out right now is our Mississippi pink eye peas, so we're going to pull those up. And also this is a bed on the other end, most of the bed actually is an asparagus bed. And this is our newest asparagus bed, but it did produce a little bit this year, but not very much. But while we're cutting back all these old fronds, you can see that here's the seeds of the asparagus, and I just like to try to make sure that as we're cleaning these out, that I pull them off and drop them. Sometimes I'll even bury them. Sometimes I'll take them to a different place and start them there. But that's how asparagus spreads. It doesn't spread as readily here as it does in some places, although there is our blackberry bed, there is one little sprig of asparagus growing in it. And once you kind of get familiar with what it looks like, then it's easy to spot. But in other areas, maybe where you live, it is so common that people can, and birds of course spread it too, and it is so common that it grows along ditches and different places where it's kind of, it's went wild, and you can just pull up it to a ditch and harvest you some asparagus in the spring. I wish it was like that right here at my house, but it's not. It's been harder to keep it growing, and took many years for our one established bed, and now this one's kind of, I guess this one's 2 years old, so maybe next year will be the year that it actually produces even more for us. But that's what the little seeds look like. What are you doing with my leaf? I can do that. It's so big though, we could put it over our face. Or wear it as a hat. Yeah. It's so pretty. The leaves, the beautiful leaves, are almost gone though. Yeah.
Yep, I'll turn brown.
Yeah. Most of them have fallen off. Many of them have fallen off.
Got to get the time that I like it the best when the woods are bare.
Like all of it. All the
I do
time.
too, but I like to be able to see through the woods.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a beauty to it when
Oh, yeah.
when it is. Yeah, for sure. Especially if we're lucky enough to get some snow and it outlines all the trees.
Yep.
Well, we didn't work very long. We didn't have much time. Daylight's fading fast. It's gonna be, it already is kind of dusky dark. It probably looks lighter on the camera, but at least we got a little bit done. I got stuff in my hair.
Grown me like a monkey.
Mm-hmm. We did manage to work up enough appetite though for a popsicle. Even though we're wearing our jackets.
I've always got appetites to eat something.
Yeah, Matt's always hungry. He says he eats like a
14-year-old boy.
14-year-old boy.
And I'm about due.
Mm-hmm.
I always
Yeah.
have. Gotta eat.
The beds that we did get cleaned out though look so much better.
I do.
We need to get the spinach. It looks terrible. And in the garden behind us, I've already got all the beans down, or in front of the house, but the okra needs to be pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just 1 or 2 tomato plants left down there. I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed about the deer finding our garden. This is the first year ever that they've eaten anything. First time. And they didn't do it during the summer. Although they were for the first time in the summer around the edge of our yard, in the back where there's some hostas. They eat those. What did you think? You heard a deer?
No.
Oh. Squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
They have officially crossed the line.
yeah, they have.
Now, I don't feel bad about it. I didn't feel bad about it much anyway. But
Well, no, because we eat.
we'll not have them eating the stuff we grow.
Yeah, deer meat feeds us. I mean, we
No.
eat, we harvest. What you harvest, we eat. So lots of people's been asking if Matt's had any luck this year. And he has. He's harvested 1 deer. Just a, what was it, a 4 point, 6 point?
4 point.
4 point. but he hopes to harvest more. And he doesn't, I mean, of course, he's not going to turn down a big giant 12 point or something, but mostly he hunts for meat for us, so he's happy with whatever he gets as far as the horns go. Of course, there's nobody's going to, if you are a hunter, you would be enticed by the big ones, but mostly ours is to feed our family.
Yeah, I like the big horns, but I refuse to go without meat waiting on big horns because you may never see them. And I want the meat. It's all about the meat, and as far as I'm concerned, the best meat on the planet.
Yeah.
If you know how to handle it and prepare it and you cook it correctly and all that, there's nothing surpasses it.
When I was growing up, Pap hunted when he was young, but there was no deer much here or there anyway in those days. And even when I was growing up, there wasn't many deer. That was really rare. Now we're covered up with them. But my brother did hunt and my Uncle Henry hunt. So I did have deer meat, a few times in my life. And I was one of those people that never cared for it. And probably other people in my family would say that too, until I met Matt and he showed us how to actually cook deer meat, and most importantly, I think, like you said, how to clean it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all become fans of it. My brother Paul, he teases if he ever had to choose a last meal, he hopes he never has to do that, but if he did, it would be Matt's deer roast. That's what it would be.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for you. It's good protein. It's not been manipulated in any way. It's good, clean, organic meat. Can't beat that. Can't get any better.
And the meat that like Matt says, and we have a video I can link to it where he's actually cleaning deer meat, but it does actually start when you first harvest the deer, or the process of it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people, like I said, when I was growing up, I've ate meat that tasted gamey, that I was like, I was too strong, I don't like it. The way Matt does it, you'd be hard to believe that it's, you could fool somebody by telling them it was beef. They would never, you could make somebody believe it was something other than deer meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so good.
I enjoy it, and I crave it, and I want more of it all the time.
And if you are a meat eater, of course some people are not, but if you are a meat eater like us, then it's also very healthy for you. So there's that.
And it's just like anything else. It's a lot of people are against hunting or whatever, but it's a resource just like trees.
Yeah.
Once they get built up to a certain amount of them within a certain area, anything over that's too many. And then they begin to overbrowse, and there's not enough food for them. They create a browse line in the woods, and that damages the ecosystem of the woods. It's bad for the deer because it's, once they start that's not the prime food. The prime food's gone. That's why they're doing that.
Right.
And then disease creeps in, and then there's a die-off, and it's a really bad, suffering way to go as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
So you could take the excess and live on it and eat it.
Yeah.
Best meat on the planet, and you're helping the deer, you're helping the woods.
Right.
It's a win-win all the way around.
Yeah.
Same with timber. Once, just like these trees right there, once trees get so big, they're shading out the useful timber under them, the useful plants in the woods that the animals can eat. It's creating shade for them, and they don't do as well.
Yeah.
They need to be, big timber needs to be cut, as far as I'm concerned, to allow the understory to be able to grow. Mm-hmm. And deer's the same way. All animals are the same way.
Yeah.
That's just the way we look at it.
Matt's been deer hunting since he was, in one way, since he was like 5. Not that he was actually hunting, of course, then, but he was tagging along.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much all my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've always enjoyed it, and always wanted to do it, and still want to do it.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of years. But it's just a perfect system, I think. Just like I explained earlier. It's a renewable resource that should be looked at and used and managed in that manner.
Yeah.
And what could be any more perfect than that?
Yeah. A plus for Matt, since he got to go, when I said tagging along, going so young, of course he was going with his father, Papa Tony. So that's another beautiful thing for Matt, and I think lots of families, especially in our area, share that kind of the generational, being brought up with it and getting to hear the elder stories, and then before you know it, you're the elder, you're passing it on to the next generation. So Austin, Corey's husband, gets to hunt with his father. It's really a wonderful thing, get to spend that time with each other. So Matt still gets to hunt with Papa Tony. They hunt down in Georgia and get to enjoy being around camp together and eating and relaxing and spending time together. Yeah.
It's an enjoyable time. It just goes by fast and don't last long enough.
Matt was talking about the overpopulation here in our area. Like I was saying, in my lifetime, when I was a girl, you never seen deer, never. I remember seeing one deer at that time. Heading Road, if you're a local person, was gravel in those days when I was a girl. And every Sunday after church, we would go to Granny Gazzy's for Sunday dinner. So we would travel Heading Road to go out towards, she lived out on 64 in the Ranger area. And I remember one time, I can still remember exactly where it was at, because that's how it imprinted on my brain. We seen a deer. And it was like we had seen a zebra. I mean, it was so rare. We were all just like... And now, I literally cannot usually get off of our road, but I sure can't get between here and Brasstown without seeing not just one deer, usually, 6, 7, 8.
I went to work this morning.
Yeah.
I left here at 5:30, and I have about a 10-mile drive. And I saw at least 35 deer this morning on the way to work. Some mornings I don't see any. It's just according to the time of year and weather and all that, but something about today, this morning, they were really on the move, and I saw them in multiple different places and multiple different groups of them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I drove by some that I didn't see.
Probably.
But
yeah.
That's from the amount of time that since we've lived here and built this house, there was almost no deer here then until now. And that's been 26, 7 years.
Yeah.
And now there's almost too many deer.
Yeah.
Especially here, real local to us. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Now
it's, and as far as I'm concerned, it is reaching that point to where there's too many.
Yeah.
And their disease will hit them at some point, and then they'll die off, and there'll be a period of years where it takes them to come back.
Yeah.
There's just not many people hunt anymore. A lot of landowners won't allow you to hunt their land. They don't want nobody to hunt. And the deer, for some reason, nowadays, they tend to live close to the settlements and around the developments and the homes for whatever reason. And you get way back in the mountains, and there's not as many.
Yeah.
So
they can eat all the...
Yeah, they're concentrated around where you can't hunt.
Yeah.
And explode.
Yeah, and they eat all your ornamental, whether you're a flower gardener or a gardener like us, they eat your stuff. But, a big difference from when, like you said, we first built this house, and it was really rare, deer were, and now they're in our yard.
Right before we built the house, I guess right before we were married, but we decided that we were going to live here. I walked this whole mountain range out because I wanted to see what it looked like, and there was not a deer track anywhere on it. And it's, what is that, 500 acres probably?
Yeah.
And I walked every little ridge and every little holler and up each little feeder creek and all that, and there was 0 deer. And that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
And now there's just absolutely too many.
Yeah. It's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I like having them, but I hate to see them get too many and see them get sick.
Yeah, and see them suffer.
That kind of bothers me. I don't like that when it can be remedied very easily.
Right. Yeah.
But what do you do?
Yeah. It's good though. You've got great memories of not just your daddy, but the other men and that you've hunted with.
Yeah.
Lots of stories and.
I think too, growing up that way, of course that was a completely different time, so those elder men of that time were not like people are today. They came out of a different time. So to a young boy of that time, that created an impression on me that's not to be seen now, not to be had. So a lot of people don't understand that bond and that way of life, because it's almost non-existent now, except for the people, the very, very few people like myself that still embrace that. You know? So I think that's part of that divide between people that hunt and people that don't hunt. They have no insight into what I saw growing up and the way we lived and the
camaraderie,
right, and the bond between those elders and myself at that time. It was just a completely different time, and we grew up differently.
Yeah, helping each other out,
right,
and making sure each other was okay, making sure people come in when they're supposed to. If they didn't, you go look for them or go help them with their deer or whatever you needed to do. Help them jump off their truck or whatever happened. Be there for them.
And then of course all the hunting camps and the tails. And I mean, it was just a fantastic time. There's no, going back to the non-hunters, and that's fine. People that don't hunt, everybody's got their own opinion and they're entitled to it. But
as it should be. Everybody should have.
It's just unless you know it and have grown up in it, you can't really explain it to somebody that doesn't do it. And there's no bad in it. A lot of people think there is. They want to paint us as bad people, but we're not. And the act itself is not bad as long as it's done respectfully and within the law, of course. It's just a pure way to live that's natural and it is part of the natural order. And it's just the way I look at it. And it's a perfect thing to do and a good way to feed your family.
Well said. Matt's on his soapbox today. He's on his soapbox, but well said. All this brought about because the deer eating my cabbage while we sleep at night. I've asked Matt if he's got a trail cam, if we can put it up in the yard and see what's out here.
I've got one. I don't use them much. It's just not my thing. But
let's put one out here and see if we see if it's. We have been seeing, or Matt's seen, and then Corey or Katie one seen a doe in the driveway. Kind of coming up our driveway and then going into the woods, not coming into our yard, but.
Put one on one of these fence stakes here and strap it to it, looking at what's left of your kale.
Yeah, what's left of my cabbage and my kale. And those were the best cabbage.
Yeah, I know.
Oh well, we've never tried growing them in the fall. They do good for us in the spring. A lot of people said, I only grow them in the fall. And I thought, well, I want to try that, but so far it's not been. I should have started them inside for one thing, but I didn't want to. As I just drag all that stuff out, and I thought, well, it's so warm, I could just sew them directly. But I probably should have started them inside, which now I don't guess I should have planted them at all if I was going to feed the deer.
Well, we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. We can't complain though. Everything else has done so good this year. Our cabbage was our big flop, but that was kind of our fault. And then things out of our control about the getting faster internet when we didn't know where they was going to put it.
Right.
But we can't complain because everything else was great.
Right. And if the deer didn't eat any more than what they have, I wouldn't really even care, but that will lead to more.
Yeah, it'll lead to mowing it down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel so sorry for people. So many people's told me stories like that. Like I had everything and then I went out the next morning and they cleaned it all out in one night. It was just gone. I'm just like, oh, that has to hurt your heart.
Yeah, all that work.
Yeah. And I've heard people say, even people in not here, but in other places in the suburbs, like I knew a girl in Raleigh who lived like in a real populated area in the suburbs. She's like, oh, I don't plant anything around my house, no kinds of flowers or anything, because in one night they just eat it. I mean, like nobody in my neighborhood plants anything. There's just too many deer. But, well, as a person who loves to grow things, that would be very hard for me.
Yeah.
And of course, lots of people put fences up and different things that you can do.
Yeah, I'm not going to do any of that.
Put the hair out and
That's just
yeah.
I have a simple philosophy. If it is residing in my freezer, it can't eat my garden.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's just plain and simple.
Yeah. Well, now that it's getting dark on us and we've had our popsicle and it's getting a little airish,
It's a little cool.
well, it's getting a little cool, we're going to go in. Tomorrow's a work day, so we got to go in and do the stuff we need to do to get ready for tomorrow. We appreciate you stopping by to help us celebrate Appalachia. Of course, it's a lot about gardening and even the disappointments of gardening when a deer eats your cabbage that you were excited about. So maybe we'll put Matt's deer cam out and we'll see if we get any pictures. We'll be sure to share them with you.